we shall start. So, as I say, welcome everyone. Welcome to another webinar by Ya Somos Europeos team in order to present the latest features and news regarding the new EPSO competition on translators for the different profiles. In total, seven of them. No, eight. And Danish, Italian, English, Greek, French, Spanish, Dutch, and Maltese. It's quite useful to have it all in one single picture with all the flags so we can remember, right? So that's the first thing. Second thing, what's going to be the menu for today? What can we expect? First of all, an overview of the call. Yeah, maybe you have already read in detail the whole call or notice of competition. That will be excellent. No need to go further. But experience tells us that sometimes we drag a little behind on reading the notice of competition. We don't want to read the whole document. We are lazy. So let's share our views with all of you. That's the first thing. And the second thing that we will check the application, some tips with the application, the timeline for the competition, the overview on that part. Third, probably the part that you are most interested, the exam, the test, what we what can we share with you regarding the different tests and how to approach them? Yeah, let's go for it. Then, how can we help you from Ya Somos Europeos in order to prepare this test or any other in any episode competition? And finally, your questions and or answers. So, our commitment is to answer all your questions. That's granted, but we only ask you for one small favor in return. Please wait until the end for your questions, because usually many of your questions are answered in the next slide. Sometimes we don't follow the order that you're expecting, but still experience tell us how to try to cover most of all your doubts during the presentation. So please, yes, until the end. We will extend the workshop or the webinar if needed in order to answer all your questions. Nobody's leaving the room without a doubt without answer. So and yes, you will see that we will use a lot of screenshots from the notice of competition. Why? Because it's very nice to have fancy colors and put it in a very interesting visual manner, but the reality is that in the notice you have all the information that you need. That's the key part. So that's why we bring the screenshot so you can realize that it's there, the information is there, it's official, and it's what you need to know for this competition. It's clear and in mind. Let's go with small warning. The typical mistakes. Yeah, we like to start with this because they are typical, but they're still happening. People tend to do the same mistakes one time and another. We don't want that. We want you to pass this competition. We want you to succeed. But for that, you need to tackle these items. Confusion between the old and new EPSO model. In the case of translators, it's been around 10 years since we've seen the last translator, general translator competition. So, meaning that a lot of things have changed. So, if you were a candidate at the time, my suggestion, take the experience, it's always useful, but with a big pinch of salt to avoid confusion. So, read it again as it were, and it is a new full model with a new competition. Some parts may be the same, test, but for the rest, it's not. So just be careful with that. In the meantime, don't be afraid of, oh no, there will be people with a lot of much better experience and knowledge. Well, who cares? This is an AD5 and no previous experience is required. So feel free to participate and don't be afraid. All of you will have to pass the same exams. And if you pass them and if you do it right, you get into the reserve list, while others who may have longer, stronger, better experience, apparently, if they don't pass the exams, they are out. So as simple as that. Trust in yourself, work hard, and you will get it. Also, don't think that there will be too many candidates. There will be candidates for sure. There are some of the languages are quite popular. Let's say um, English, Spanish, French, Italian. There's a lot of speakers, right? But still, at the end, if you do things right, it's what you need to trust. Your own mistakes is what is going to cost you the year. What your own mistakes can put you outside of the reserve list rather than the success of the right things done by other candidates. So forget the number of candidates. It's not too complicated. It just simply requires some time and peace of mind to read all the items, and don't procrastinate. So don't leave it for tomorrow. Don't leave it for the day after tomorrow. No, after Christmas. No, guys, we know it's until the 14th of January to submit your application, but don't leave it until then. Start earlier. Fine if you do everything and you say, no, I will sleep it over, I will wait for a couple of days just to check again my application, to check some features. That's fine, but don't leave it for tomorrow. No, I will start tomorrow, I will start tomorrow. Just like that, and even more for studying and preparing, it's a recipe for disaster, because then the exam, or the deadline to submit your application, the exam comes and you say, oh my goodness, only a few days left and I have done nothing. Not good. Not good. But you're brave candidates. You can do great. It's only a question of organizing yourselves and working a little bit, few hours per week. That will should be fine. So I don't think that they will require far more. Yeah. Then let's go into the details of the overview of the competition. You see, there's plenty of spots. In total, 1,177 candidates or sort of for institutions, policy agencies. The good news is that that means that positions can be open everywhere in the European institutions, meaning Brussels, Luxembourg, Strasbourg, and other places. So that's and agencies, meaning that wherever there's an agency, could be. Still, just by pure statistics size, the biggest body of translators, it's in the translation unit, in the translation department, where there are around 2,000 people, if I remember correctly. That's the biggest. So most of the opportunities will be there, Luxembourg. So, but still, there are chances for other places. Yes, to be clear. And also another thing, I mean, fine, we got 1,177, but in reality, we are applying to one single language. We can apply to Spanish, we can apply to Danish, we can apply to Italian, but only to one. We cannot apply to the others. We can only apply one, meaning that we have to think that there will be 146 or 111 spots, more than enough for each language. Don't worry, more than enough for all of you, right? Yes, don't get misled by the number sometimes. So, and also another thing, that being in the reserve list gives you the right to be a candidate for a position as an officer of the European Union, but not give you, it doesn't give you the position itself. So after the whole process, you're in the reserve list, you will need to find a spot. Not big deal. You don't need to think beforehand about this, because once the competition is done, probably we will organize some trainings and some webinars as well to explain you what to do next. Not big deal, but just this small clause that sometimes is missed, need to be you need to pay attention to it. And for the reserve list, we don't know how long it's going to be. There is no indication, but assume that EPSO and the European institutions tend to extend the life of this list until they are almost empty, because they need staff, they need new profiles, they need translators. That's sure. And yes, Luxembourg is the main workplace for a simple reason that the translation is there. So most of the people are working there, but still there are part that is working in Brussels or in other institutions. So that, just to give you an overview of what can be expected. Oops. Yeah. Other items that we found quite interesting. It's said in the notice that all the candidates will be invited to the exam. We're marking this because on previous competitions in the old model, there was a screening procedure, initial screening procedure. There was some initial steps, so not all the candidates were invited to the competition, but or to the exam in the competition. In this time, in this new model, yes, you will. So imagine that you don't have your degree yet. Clearly, you won't have it until, according to the notice of competition, to be valid, to be eligible. But still, you decide to present yourself, to practice, and to know how the exam is. What is a valid reasoning? So you get invited to the exam, and don't get overexcited. Oh, I got invited to the exam, so I could really pass this competition. If you don't fulfill the criteria, the eligibility criteria, you cannot but still you are being invited because the filter, the eligibility checks will be done later. Okay, please have this clear. And then the exam is done in one day, and you have a hell of a day because there's 5 tests. There's a lot of tests there that you have to take in one day. So meaning that in total, if we add all the minutes of the exams, it's more than 3 hours. And if you add the breaks between the exams, that's gonna be long, very long day. Get ready. So, but on the not so bright side, the results you will get them only at the end of the process, not at the beginning. In the meantime, but they could tell me the reasoning test, the results, not the others. No, they will give you all the information at the end. So EPSO could change the of opinion, give you earlier, perhaps. But the truth is that in the notice they say at the end they will give you the results. So be aware of that. And then the participation conditions. This is spectacular. This is really great because it's you only need to have a good level of languages and a university degree. So on the specific conditions, you need to have a one language at level C2, usually your mother tongue or native language, meaning one of the profiles of the competition: English, French, Spanish, Maltese, Italian, and other two languages at level C1. But the funny thing, or ironical, I'm saying this, if any one of you have been a blue book, probably you know what I'm meaning. You don't have to prove it with documents. You don't have to submit any certificate of languages. Nothing. You will have to prove it through the test, through the different steps of the competition, and that's it. You don't need to bring any specific paper on that part. While for blue books, for instance, they have to submit documents that prove their level of languages, but not in this competition. This competition is only by practice, by showing it on a practical way. What is quite useful for some candidate, and maybe they don't have the documents, but they have the level required. So this is important. This is something that calls our attention. That's why we wanted to share it with you. And regarding the other conditions, the classic ones. So beyond of age, be national of one member state. So if you are from UK, I'm sorry, but unless you have other nationality of a member state, you cannot participate in this competition. So obligations, you have fulfilled your obligation for the military service. Maybe some of you are wondering what the hell, but is that a thing? Yes, it's a thing because in some member states it's still compulsory, the military service. So you need to fulfill that obligation before joining the institutions. Yeah, meet the character requirement for the duties concerned. So EC1, as mentioned, regarding the languages, yeah, the diploma. That's another interesting part. The diploma for your studies, they allow you until the 10th of April, the latest, to get the diploma. So imagine that you are still finalizing your studies. By chance, you end your studies in February with all the exams at the beginning of the year, and you get your degree then. Still, you can apply and then get your degree. How will they check? Easily, because at the 10th of April, you have to submit your documents. So at that moment, you have to have your degree. So that opens a very nice opportunity to people who are still studying at the universities, who are still finalizing their studies. So don't don't hesitate to apply if you are within this window of opportunity, because you got it. And then the part, no professional experience is needed. So that's fantastic. No, no need of that. Okay, so this were the things that the color of attention. So, but what about the split of the languages and the test and so on? Very simple, or not, depends, up to you. Um, we told you C2 for the languages of the competition: English, French, Danish, Greek, Spanish, Italian, Maltese, and Dutch. So C2. And then for language 2, language 3, C1 level, and we see the split of the languages. For language 2, most of you will have to use English. But wait, I'm taking Greek. Can I choose French? Sure. I mean, language two can be French as well. But just using the pure statistics of amount of people who speak second, third languages in Europe, English is the main second language. So we can assume that most of you will present English as language two. Up to you. That's your strategy, because then language three, that it need to be different from language two and language one. So can I present Danish, French, and Hungarian? Sure. It's within the scope of. Can I present Spanish, English, and French? Absolutely. That's perfectly fine. Can I present English, Finnish, and French? Yes, sure, because the competition allows you to do that. So there is a lot of combinations here that you can use. Depends on your level of languages. Also check the different tests that you will have to face on that part. We will discuss a little bit more about the languages later, but I mean, just have this in mind. There's a lot of possibilities for this competition. Just check your level of language. I mean, if you you speak, let's say, French, English, and Spanish, let's call it like that. That's fine. No? You could just apply on the French or on the Spanish or on the English. You have the three options to apply. Then the combination of languages, fine as well. You see, plenty of opportunities on this side. Yeah. And then when we're talking about how the competition will be evaluated, this is also another important thing. It's linked to the fact that I mentioned before, you will get your results at the end of the competition, but you won't get the results for some test if you don't pass the previous one. This is something that is important to retain. And how it's going to happen? Yeah. All of you will be invited to the 5 tests that you see on the screen. I'm calling five tests because the reasoning I'm considering as a single test, although it's composed of 3 different tests: verbal, numerical, and abstract reasoning. Fine, but I hope everybody understands this. So we have the reasoning, we have the language knowledge, the language comprehension, the translation, and the revision. 5 tests. We will take the 5 of them. And then EPSO will review the answer, will score the test for reasoning. Have you passed the reasoning test? Have you get at least 22 points over 40? Fine, excellent, super. They will check then the language knowledge and the language comprehension test. They will score them, and they will check that you get 13 or more in the knowledge and 6 or more in the comprehension test. Fine. Considering this, they will establish a list of the candidates, and they will use the language knowledge test to rank you. If you got 25 out of 25, you are on top. If you got 13 out of 25, you are at the bottom. Simple as that. And they will go through. So until they complete 2 times the number of candidates for one profile. If for Maltese there were 149, guessing, meaning that it will be around 300, almost 300 candidates, 298, properly speaking, will be invited. No, sorry, will be reviewed the translation. They will be scored the translation test. Why is so? Because the translation test is far more complex. It needs a human being reviewing your exercise, checking all the items, all the features of your translation are the right ones, and scoring it, because it's 100 points that you can get. So there's a lot to score there. So that's why they want to limit the number of candidates, because the amount of resources to do the revision or the score is limited, and it will take a lot of time if they have to review or score all the candidates who took the exam and pass the previous test. That's why they do that limitation. And then if you pass the translation test, then your revision test will get a score as well. Okay. On this case, maximum the 2 times the number of candidates sold. That's the thing, and that's it. I mean, now we are assuming that we have passed all the tests and we were among the best candidates from the knowledge test. So what will happen next? So they will put together all the markings from the And you see the comprehension test, the translation, and the revision test. So in total, could be up to 152 points that you could get. And from there, they will rank you again. And after ranking you, those who are on top until the number of places that they are looking for, if there is remember that if at the bottom the candidates have the same score, they will add all of you. Nobody will get disqualified if if they have the same score. So, and that will be it. Simple. Yeah, I mean, it's not so difficult, but I know that sometimes when we read the notice for the first time, could be a bit, I wouldn't say misleading, but confusing or not clear how it's going to be done. So, hope this is very clear. At the end, what matters for all of you as candidates, I need to pass all the tests and I need to get good scores in my test. Simple as that. So I cannot be overconfident saying, oh, if I got the minimum score, that's fine. Only for the reasoning test, you can get the minimum. For the others, the higher, the better. Always to be safe. So please, just be careful with that. And just you're wondering about the type of test, more details. Don't worry, that is coming. We'll talk about the test later. That's one thing. So now I'm moving to the application part. It's rather simple this time, as you don't have to provide or to prove work experience. It's shooting the basics. That's enough. So that's one thing. Remember, you will have to set the languages at the beginning of the menu, language 1, language 2, language 3, to fill in your application. Okay. Also, can I do strange combinations? Can I do forbidden combinations with the language? Cannot. The system will keep you in the right path, meaning that if you select language 1 Spanish, language 2, the menu will display will sorry will display English or French as it was in the conditions of the notice. And then on the language 3, all the 24 official languages except the language 1 and language 2 that you already marked before. So on that part, we are fail safe for that. Okay, but still pay attention and select the languages. Core language 1 should be aligned with the field of the competition that you have selected. Oops. So then when we are filling in the application, something that is not very clear if the system will act automatically or not, so better not to risk it, is with the languages when we're setting the or leveling languages. You say that we don't know documents, we don't need documents, that it's fine. Yeah, I say so, but you still need to mark your level in your application. So for that, you need to put the languages. Please, the 3 languages that you're using for this competition, they should be there. If you are native in one language, it's C2. If for the other 2, should be C1 in all 4 aspects: ability to read, speak, writing. So this is very important because just like that, how you are seeing now on the screen, that wouldn't be valid. You could get disqualified by indicating a lower level. So don't risk that part. It's a very simple thing to fix, a very simple, silly mistake to commit that we don't want. So just be sure that you leave it like this. So Spanish, C2, 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 English, French, C1, 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 C1. That's perfectly fine. And with any other language that you have selected as language 2, unless as language 1, it should be C2. Language 2 and 3 should be C1. But I'm bilingual in English and French. Great. Then you put C2 for English and C2 for French. That's valid. It's always the minimum threshold that we are marking. If you're above those levels, that's perfect. That's great. At least C1, C2, even better. Not big deal. Very silly, but still, silly mistakes can cost us dear. Then on the motivational part, on the questions, because many people ask, and some people don't pay attention to this, and they should. Why? they are not scored. You don't get marks. You don't get anything from these questions. Sure, but you give knowledge to the board. You give knowledge to potential employers in the future. So it helps evaluators to understand better the information. Sometimes when something is not clear in your application, they may read the questions to get a better understanding. And say, oh no, that's fine. Now I see why it is this explanation like this. So just take it seriously. Reply the questions and reply the questions. I insist on this part because if they're asking for your motivation, talk about your motivation. If they ask about how your experience or your background it's relevant in this particular profile, try to explain it because I'm a multilingual candidate who has a very good knowledge on the following languages that I've been working already on translation. It can be of use, something like that. Don't tell, oh, well, because for me, Europe is very important. It's a great institution, the European Union. I would like to work there. Yeah, but that was not the question. The question is how relevant your education and your experience is. Motivation. You see my point. Don't mix things. Answer the questions. Don't overcomplicate yourselves. And also, don't need to fill in the whole box. There's a limit of words that you can use. No, you just need to answer and that and give the right information. That's one thing. Yeah. About the work experience, as the basic input is the university diploma of 3 years of studies or more. You could even leave it empty. But if you fill in the work experience, what is always good because for later stages it could be helpful. Remember that you will have to upload the relevant documents accordingly. If you put your experience working in a X company, you should upload the documents that prove that experience. Remember, everything that you say in the application regarding your experience, work experience, or academic background need to be proved, need to be supported by evidence. So, and that's it. So, but if you've been working on an irregular situation in a job and you don't have any document that prove it, don't write it. You are complicating your lives unnecessarily, especially in this competition where I insist no work experience is needed. We saw it in the notice. It's again captured in the picture that we framed there, and that's why I like to bring the notice because, guys, you don't have to believe me. You just believe the notice. You just follow the notice. That's a legal document and it's legally binding to EPSO and institutions. Use it in your advantage. Okay. That was one thing. Let's continue. We're approaching the end of the application. Yeah, because now you get the menu on the eligibility. Here, what you confirm that you fulfill all the elements. So, in the way that you're saying that you meet all the criteria and all the requirements, and that's it. If you don't answer yes to all the points, the system won't allow you to send your application and confirm your eligibility. Regarding the confirmation of eligibility, one small thing: if there's something missing, if there's something that is not right according to the system, you will get a warning message. For instance, like this one, that it was missing the studies, so meaning that you cannot participate, you are not eligible. This is something that has improved a lot in the last years in the application process. You get the warnings, but still, don't get overconfident. Always check your application because could be, as we saw for the languages, that the information is there, but it's wrong. It's not correctly cataloged. So you could get still spell and the system won't let you know beforehand. I mean, better to check your application twice. So this is very important. And please remember that to submit your application, to validate it, you have to introduce your password, to the same password that you use for your account. So it's not by accident that you submit your application. It's not, oh, man, I click it too fast. I send it with mistakes, or I wanted to change the split of the languages. Think before submit. You have plenty of chances not to make the mistake of just clicking and submitting. No, you really think and provide these elements. So please take a good look to your application before submitting. This one is an easy one. It's a fast one. It's a short one. Shouldn't take a lot of time, but take enough time to make it right. And this is important. Also, small things. that we want to remind you. If you introduce some explanations, particularly not only on the questions about your motivation, but on your work experience or your academic background, remember to make it clear, because if it's a human being has to read that, have some pity on them. Big block of text is always messy. So try to make it in a way that it can be read easily. The interface is not the best. So sometimes the way that the reader is going to see it on his or her screen is going to be helpful, with all due respect. So meaning that if we split information, we create simple sentences and simple points, it's much easier to be read. So that's why it's important. So always remember one main idea per block or per sentence. Don't try to put all the information in one sentence. So the bullet points, but I cannot add bullet points into the boxes, right? But you can use the keyboard to create the plus sign, and you create different points or asterisk. So and also for explanations that go deeper, that are more complex, always the key idea at the beginning or at the end. And this is valid for many other things. You always put the key message at the beginning or at the end, never in the middle, unless you really want to make it disappear. Use the vocabulary as they use in the notice. This one, as there's not much work experience related, it's a tip that maybe soft tip. Still, what is important? In Annex 1, there's a part, there's one of the points that clearly indicates the documents that you need to prove academic background or work experience, what is valid and what is not. Read it. Read it. As well in Annex 1, believe it or not, well, I challenge you. Don't believe me. Go there and go to the notice and read it. You will see that there is information about how to complain about the questions in the exam if you have any issue, or technical issues, how to react, or many other information, useful information are in Annex 1. So please, when you read the notice, don't forget to read the core of the notice and the Annex 1. It will help you a lot. You don't have to believe me, just read it. And tell me afterwards, nah, the Annex 1 was boring and it was useless. Great, if that's the case, but based on our experience, it's very useful. Okay, yep, that was for the application, but what about the timeline? What can I expect? Well, simple and complicated, because this is a while guessing. This is based on our experience, not that something that we can grant you at the 100%, because that's only EPSO who have it, the guarantee. So the application, you have until the 14th of January, what is good. So plenty of time. We will keep reminding you through our media that you have to apply, so don't worry until the end on that part, but please don't leave it for the 14th. Then until 10th of April to upload the documents, upload and link the documents. Remember, this is a two-step process. Probably I should improve that on the slide. So you have to upload and link the documents to your profile and to your application. Then the CBT, computer-based test, meaning reasoning test, and the other test, I didn't put all the names, but you know which ones, will be in spring, before or after the upload of the documents. It's true that EPSO has published a diagram where the exams come after the upload of the documents, meaning after 10th of April. Is that a guarantee? No, it's an indication. It's indicative again because we have seen competitions that their exams happen before uploading the documents, and some others that happen after uploading the documents. So, but still, by calendar and the fact that there are other competitions in motion, we tend to think that, yeah, not earlier than March should happen the exam if EPSO wants to accelerate. Also, we have one item that is the fact that there is tender to change the supplier of the software for the exams. So it's not clear if they're going to use the old one or the new one for your exam. That meaning that if they use the new one, probably will be later in the spring, could be May. So that's why we prefer to be safe than sorry and spring. And also allow us to work few hours per week until the exam. We don't need to work a lot of hours per day. No, it's few hours per week. So you can still have a life, enjoy everything, enjoy your family, friends, and your Christmas, keep with your work, but at the same time, dedicate a few hours per week. I mean, Saturday morning, fine, or Saturday afternoon, or Sunday morning, that's perfectly fine. 3, 4 hours, that could be. And then after summer 2025, so meaning more autumn 2025, being honest, we expect that you will get the reserve list, you will see your names there, and we all together can celebrate your success. That's the main goal. Okay. Hope this is clear for the timeline. And then, of course, once you're in the reserve list, then still no process and the new model has finalized yet. So we cannot give you more hints on how it's going to be. We can give our word that we will be there. And the moment we get more information about how is the process going to happen, we will inform and we will help you on that part. But most likely scenario, each entity will organize mini selection processes, assessments, interviews for translators, maybe with a translation test as well, to hire new colleagues from the reserve list. Remember that to become an officer, this is a sacred rule. You have to be in a reserve list. So that's the beauty of being there. Okay. Hope this is clear. Hope so far the paperwork part of this competition is more or less solved. That everybody knows what to do, has started to read the notice and to check the elements. I really hope so. But yeah, you're wondering. And the test, what's going to happen with the test? Tell us more about that, right? That's what you're looking for. Good. Let's see it. So, coming back to what we saw before, 5 tests, long day, 188 minutes of test. It's a big test divided in multiple tests, but yeah. You can expect some breaks, meaning that nowadays the exams are starting at 10 a.m. with the reasoning test. After that, usually there is 1 hour, 1 hour and a half of break until the next one. Don't think that between your tests will be so much time because otherwise, I mean, you start at 10 o'clock in the morning and you end at 10 in the evening. But man, at least 1 hour, something like that could be. Or they could merge some of the tests, meaning that you do the reasoning first and then break. Then you do language knowledge and language comprehension together next. Then the translation after some break compared with the previous, and finally break and the last one. That could be. That's why we are merging as well the language knowledge and the language comprehension. And that will make sense as well because you see that the language knowledge and language comprehension is in language one. So in the main language of the competition, whether it's English, French, Spanish, Italian, Maltese, Dutch, Greek. So could be it. And so that's an overall, not now, but when the moment comes, when the exam is coming, when you already are being told that the a date for the exam, or advice will be always try to practice a whole exam during the weekends. I mean, I'm not saying every day, but a couple, 2 or 3 times, try to do a whole exam, reasoning, language knowledge, language comprehension, translation, and revision all together in one day. Just so you get used to it. You know what's the feeling. You know what is the lack of energy, meaning for that exam, because that's going to play a role. Remember that the most demanding test, translation and revision, are the last ones, are the last parts. That's one thing that we should be aware of. And now focusing a little bit on the reasoning test, I don't know if you notice or if you pay attention to the fact that the verbal reasoning has been cut in half. Yes, it's only 10 questions. My goodness. Really, it's not a typo. Exactly, it's not a typo. It's intended by EPSO. 10 questions, 18 minutes. That's standard, not big deal, but 20 points. So the verbal reasoning values double. So that's why we call it heavyweight of this exam. You need to be careful. You need 22 points out of 40. So meaning that if you make a good verbal reasoning, Numerical and abstract requires you very few points, but on the contrary, if you blunder, if you fail in the verbal, it's going to be difficult to compensate, to come back to it. So just be very careful with this. Prepare accordingly. Remember, verbal reasoning is about reasoning. It's not about verbal capacities or knowledge of the language. The knowledge of the language is coming afterwards, and you see that they are completely different tests. So remember, verbal reasoning is about reasoning. It's always important to retain. And if you are looking for examples, just go to our YouTube channel. We have uploaded some of them, and also to our blog. So don't forget to visit us for more on this. We don't have time, unfortunately, to go deeper today. Language knowledge, the first of the specialist test. On the small frame at the right, you see an example. You put four options of words, and you have to select the one that is correctly spelled or the orthography is the right one. So that's for French, but that could be exactly the same for other languages. This is an example extracted from EPSO. It's on the EPSO webpage, so quite easy to find. And we have put the link somewhere. What we know from the notice. So they say the language knowledge test comprise a set of multiple choice questions in language one. Again, French, English, Spanish, Italian, Dutch, Maltese, Greek. Aim to assess the candidate linguistic proficiency, vocabulary, grammar, spelling, and punctuation, expressions, idiomatic. So this is a big diversity of type of questions. So, what's the meaning of the expression "you are a pain in the ass"? Oops, you allow me. The meaning is that you have a lot of pain in your, at the end of your back. The meaning is that you are painting something. The meaning is that someone, it's a difficult person, is creating difficulties, that's making your life heavy. That could be another question, for instance. Yes. So things like that. And in total, you have 25 questions, 25 minutes. You need minimum to pass the threshold 13 out of 25, but most likely you will need a higher mark in order to be sure that you are going through all the test. So this is set by EPSO on their web. Principal time shouldn't be an issue, but only 1 minute per question. True. There are questions that will require maybe more than 1 minute to assess. Could be the case, but many of them, and you see the example on the screen, in 1 minute or less than 1 minute should be done. I mean, the moment you start to doubt, the moment you start to wonder about one question and the other, it's not a good sign. I mean, don't expect that it's going to be easy. I mean, this is an exam that is going to establish a threshold and a rank of candidates, so we expect it will be demanding, but at the same time, not from the perspective of time being an issue. So 25 minutes should be more than enough to answer these questions. Okay. Simple, yes, but still need to be done. Then language comprehension. Oops, sorry for that. That shouldn't be there. So we will delete it later. So this time you need to take a text, and I will preferably go here. Test with 12 questions. So you see a sample, and this is also an example extracted from EPSO web page. The real text is a bit longer, so it comprises in total 12 points of text. You see that there is a number on the left, and also 12 questions. So, and the questions could be about the meaning of the text, the synonyms of words, or what's the real understanding of certain paragraph, things like that. So, and overall, that's the idea. Nothing more than that. I mean, you have 25 minutes, so again, should be more than enough to deal with it. This one is about comprehension. Remember that we mentioned before verbal reasoning, the importance of the reasoning. The language was not important. Now it's different. It's what you understand with certain expressions. It's more overall comprehension of the language. It's not reasoning. It's not about the precise information that you extract in verbal reasoning. It's more about the broad field of understanding a language. So here, yes, here you have to have a good level of the language. That's why it's language 1 and you are required C2. So in my case, I'm Spanish speaker, native. Uh, Probably you already noticed by my accent, but I'm bet that the moment you get some questions in this exam, you will that, for God's sake, it's my own language, but I'm not sure if it's A or B. I mean, tricky question. They are quite smart with this kind of test. So be attentive. Don't be overconfident. I mean, trust yourself. You have the level, you have the knowledge, but guys, always overconfidence kills in these exams. So that's for the comprehension. Let's assume we have passed both exams and we have ranked quite well on the first language test. So we are invited. No, we are not invited. We are score on the next test that we are taking in any case. That is the translation test. The piece of resistance of this exam, because it's 60 minutes, quite demanding, and also we're expecting it will be demanding from the perspective of the size of the document. So think about 500, even more words could be in the original text. From language 2 to language 1. I know that it depends if they use English or French or any other language as the source material. Text could differ sensibly in the number of words, but that's fine. But expect something long, something that really will require the 60 minutes without stop. So be very, very careful with that. Practice with long text. Man, don't put yourself with text of 300 words. No, I will go for 500, 600 words minimum for practice. And you can always use EU text for practice. Although it's not guaranteed, it's not exclusively guaranteed that they will use EU text. They could use the piece of a newspaper or a journal as a source material. That could happen. But usually the advantage of the EU text is that gives you have materials available in all the languages. There's a lot of topics that you can touch. Thing is that we don't know if you will be allowed to use a dictionary or what kind of dictionary. So that's something that is not being clarified in the test, in the notice of competition for this test. We assume, and it's our personal guessing, that you will have some kind of IT tool to be used as an access to a dictionary, online dictionary through the test with platform, something like that. Because now that you take the exam online from home, having a big dictionary with you could be messy. Dictionaries make noise, the system detect the noise and create an alarm. Candidates get nervous. Not good, not good. A lot of problems with that part. So, and also based on the fact that 10 years ago, on the previous translator competition, candidates were allowed to use the dictionary, a physical dictionary, a big one, but it was in the prometric center, was in the test center. So you were physically there taking the exam, and you were surveyed by human beings in the room. Different approach. That's why we're thinking that it will be different from a logistical perspective. That's for the translation. But last but not least, we have the revision. So here you really need an eye for detail. All things considered, it's been a long day for you. You have taken the previous test. So people, be careful. You need to train for this. This is a marathon. And you cannot run a marathon at the first try. You haven't practiced. You have trained yourself a little bit earlier. You will die after a few kilometers. So we don't want that. If we want to keep our eye for detail and we want to keep our stamina for this exam, practice beforehand. This time it's 30 minutes, and it can be any kind of mistake. Change in the figures that they reflect, the sense of the expressions, the commas that are not in the right place, accents, whatever you can imagine. So, and it will be from language 2 to language 1. So, just again, should it be easy? Relatively, I mean, the fact that you need to pay a lot of attention to the text makes things challenging, and should be around 250, 300 words. Still, don't get overconfident. It could be a bit longer, even. So, and again, you can use UDocs for practice. So it's an option. Mhm. So, sorry, I see some reference to three-part. What do you mean exactly? Maybe, yeah, the language comprehension is language three. Yeah, maybe I said something, make it a small mess with that part. Hope it's not clear on this. And in fact, the language comprehension is the single one that is on language three. Okay. So this is it for the test, for the different tests and how it's going to be done. So it's a competition overall that we can consider quite simple in the procedure. The application shouldn't be a big deal, and how the tests are aimed. Also, I think they're quite straightforward. Doesn't mean that it's going to be easy to be in the reserve list, because it's a long day of exams. They won't be easy at all. They will be challenging on this language test, but still they are feasible. And if you do the things right, you will get it. And just as a reminder, I put you the picture shared by EPSO with the different steps of the competition, with the supporting documents on the 10th of April, then the different tests one day, and finally selection of the candidates. Again, this is indicative. This is not legally binding. Only the notice is legally binding. Remember that. And all the information about the date of the exam and all the valid information about how the exam is going to happen will be submitted via your EPSO profile once you have validated your application. Let's not forget that. Hope this is clear. Yes, very briefly, what can YSE Europeans do for you? What else? Because if you're here today, hopefully you're finding it useful this webinar, and we're helping you to know better what to do on the next steps as a candidate of the translator competition. Well, of course, we can help you with the CBT, the computer-based test, or reasoning test. We have it on English and Spanish. Then the training and workshops for specific tests, like for instance, the scientist that was already open a few weeks ago, and we will be closed next week, if I remember correctly. And of course, training for translators, that the one that is interested. Santa will bring in the information, will bring the trainings, meaning that the week before Christmas, we will announce all our trainings to prepare this competition to start in January. Okay, so hopefully you will find useful, but also as Santa is bringing it, we are aiming to bring you some nice surprises, free access for all as well. So stay alert and follow us. Follow us in our social media in order to be the first to know what we are offering regarding translator competition, any other competition, and any other useful materials that you may need for yourselves or for others. So if you think that we can be of use for colleagues and friends, don't hesitate to share our contact details. And yes, give it like to the video recording if you are seeing it on YouTube now, because it always help us with the algorithm, help you, and we will encourage us to give you more materials. So remember, because we want you. That's the final conclusion, but we depend on your work to get that done. And now, time for your questions. So let me go through the chat. See. Okay, can you explain a little bit more what is the revision test about and how it differs from the translation test? Sure. So I know it's in a bit small, but this is the revision. In the revision, you get a text in English or language two, French as well could be, or any other language if you are taking English. That one on the red frame, and then below is the translation to language one. So you have to detect in language one where are the mistakes, where are the parts that there's been an error on the text, meaning that could be a comma that is not in the right place, point, capital letter, accent, the expression used to translate something is not the right one. Everything could be a mistake. So in this particular exercise, everything that is not right, it's something that we need to mark and indicate as a potential error. Or as a potential, no, as a mistake. So that's why. While in the translation part, it's classic. I mean, you will get. In fact, I didn't put it on the presentation because just you get a document, text, and you have to translate it from language 2 to language 1. So again, it's a text, could be in English, in French, or any other language, and you have to move it to translate by yourself to the language 1. The difference that while in translation you are most likely, you're supposed no, most likely you will have some tools to help you, meaning dictionary. Usually on this test, you've been allowed to use a dictionary. In the revision, you are not allowed to have anything with you. It's only yourself and the text. So that's based on previous experiences. That's the big difference. Both require a deep knowledge of the languages and a good skills in translation. That's for sure. But the approach is going to be a bit different. And time-wise, as mentioned before, I find more demanding the translation. I think that there will be you will have just the time to finalize in the translation, while in the revision depends how fast you can go through the document. Shouldn't be a problem to get it done in 30 minutes. Okay, I continue. Can you talk a bit about the conditions we need to ensure to take the test? Technical conditions place? Yes, Constanza. Very simple. The platform used by EPSO, it's called TestWe at this moment. It's the same platform that the Commission is using for the internal competitions. So, and you have to use a laptop that is your private laptop. Don't use corporate laptops because that creates a big mess. Corporate laptops, I mean, if you're working in institutions, you cannot use that laptop. If you're working in a private company, you cannot use it because they have usually proprietary software that clash with the platform, with TestWe. So that's why they asked you to have your own laptop. The technical criteria requirements for the laptop are in the EPSO webpage. I don't want to quote them by heart because by memory, because I will make a mistake probably. That's one thing. If you have known the all previous online exams by EPSO a few years ago, now it's far more relaxed in the sense that you will do a test, a pre-test, or before the exam, where the software will check you, will take your picture, and will check that the sound and the image, everything is right. So you will get technical clearance for the exam, and I will also give you the right to complain to EPSO if something goes wrong, technically speaking, the day of the exam. Imagine that the software frozen and you lose your exam. So you can complain to EPSO after, if you have done your previous test, and say, guys, my exam was blocked. What's going on here? I claim for my right to take again the exam. That's the example. Yeah, for the rest, is the software force you, asks you to look at the screen all the time. So if you do like that, you will get a warning during the exam. If you collect several warnings from the software, the exam could be cancelled. But believe me, you really need to do very weird things to get your exam cancelled by the software, meaning making a lot of noise, just like that, and not looking at the screen, blocking your head, your mouth, things like that, that the software detects that something is not right, because the software is trained to detect your face looking at the screen. This is an extreme condition. So in general, sometimes we don't look at the screen. Fine, I mean, not big deal. Normal behavior, it's fine. So just don't get nervous and freak out. With all due respect. And this is it. I mean, so far the software it's failing much less than the previous platform. There's some technical issues, but minor compared to the past exams and competitions, so things are running relatively smoothly now. So, and again, you will get, as a candidate, you will get a video explanatory from EPSO and a lot of documents telling you everything that you need to know about the platform. I always suggest to check all these documents because from one exam to another, from one competition to another, they may introduce some changes, small technical changes or improvements for the platform. I mean, this is not frozen. I mean, it's a process in evolution. Okay. Hope this is clear for well, and regarding the place, you can do it whenever you want, provided it's a room where you are alone and there's no background noise, let's say, and nobody is stepping in during the exam. Between the tests, the different tests, you can have a break and the system closes. So you can leave the room, go to the toilet, talk to people. That's not a problem. Just only during the test, you need to be isolated. That you have to be in a room with some furniture. That's fine. I mean, it's only that they don't see a lot of things on top of you on the table that could be considered problematic. That's it. It's far more reasonable than in the past. How many candidates will you get in reserve list? Let's say in the Spanish language, 154 numbers sold, but how many in the reserve list? Those are the in the reserve list. The numbers are for the reserve list. What happens if the final candidate on the list, 100, the candidate 154 has 100 points and the 155 has 100 points. That means that both they will make into the reserve list. So sometimes you can see reserve lists that are longer or higher, bigger than the number originally showed in the notice. But also could happen that they are smaller. In the case that the candidates they don't pass the competition, there are enough candidates who have passed the exams. Could be 120 candidates on the reserve list for a theoretical list of 154. Yes, that could happen as well. For translator, I don't think that that will be the case, but in other competitions, we have seen it. And do you know of past problem with people using Mac laptop for the test? In principle, it should go fine. I mean, it's a system that is accepted. I don't know if they have some problems with the camera, but we usually people manage to solve it. In fact, with the Macs, the biggest problem I'm ironical, I'm using the word biggest problem is the fact that some people has the small Macs. Yeah, you only have the screen of your laptop to do the exam, so that's creating some uh, issues. That is very tiny, but technically speaking, the exam worked well. Explain more about the comprehension test. It's language 3, one of the C1 languages. And do you think it's hard not to do that part in your native tongue? Uh, it will be hard. I mean, oops. It will be hard to do this exam not in your native tongue. That's why they're asking for C1. But it's also a way of selecting the candidates. So it's part of the challenge of the competition. So and yes, the question can be again quite different. Let's go. Sorry, let's go better to this picture. So you can see you get text, and then you get questions that cover different approaches, vocabulary, meaning, some other things. So it's going to be challenged, yes. But this is a translator exam, so that's why. But at the same time, it gives you an advantage for all of you who have a very good knowledge of the languages and you have the right skills, but maybe you don't have the degree or the studies in translation. You have others. And at the same time, those who have studied translation and who have been working on this field, for sure, this should be feasible. This should be an exam that for you, it's fine. But still, yeah, all the tests will be challenging. Okay, okay, thanks. So it's the 154 best candidates exactly. It will be the ones who will make it for the reserve list. How many candidates we expect to apply for this competition? Honestly, I think a few thousands per profile. I was thinking more about main profiles. when I say main, languages that are widely spoken in the European Union. Meaning for English, you can speak a lot, for French as well, for Spanish and Italian as well. For Maltese or Dutch, with all due respect, the number of speakers is limited. In the case of Dutch, Netherlands, Belgium, Flemish region, Maltese, well, it's a small country with a very small amount of speakers. So on those, we may see hundreds, not thousands. But for the others, for Spanish, Italian, French, and English, we're expecting thousands. Also, the criteria are quite open. So even if you're doing your studies now, you can participate in this competition. So that opened the field to many candidates. We will see. In any case, as the tests are demanding, it will depend on the things that you do right rather than the things the other do right. So at the end, being in the reserve list, and this is based on your experience in many competitions, depends more on the questions that you answer right. And think about the difficult questions will be difficult for you and for all other candidates, assuming that you have the good level and skills for the competition. So not making silly mistakes. The questions that are simple and answering them right is basic, because those are the points that you cannot afford to lose. You have 5 easy questions and 10 difficult ones. Fine. If you fail the easy ones, it's 5 points, 4 points, 3 points that you're losing. While in the difficult, at the end, by pure statistical process, more or less all of you will be at the same level. I mean, one I got it right and the other got it wrong, but the next question is vice versa. I got it wrong and the other got it right. So meaning that on the difficult ones, all of you will be within the same threshold. But the easy ones are the ones that we cannot fail absolutely, because will be the ones that give us access or the final points that we need to get through the different tests and into the reserve list. So focus on that. Focus on yourself. Don't think about the number of candidates, because at the end also a lot of people join the competitions and they don't take it seriously. They don't prepare at all, and they look frightening. I see 5,000 candidates, yes, but at the end, how many of them have really prepared, study? Half, even less. This based on our experience. So we never trust the initial numbers. We always trust the final numbers. So though only those invited to the final part is 2 times the number of candidates sought are the real strong candidates. If you are there, your chances are good. Okay. Any other question or comment? If not, we will leave it here. Thanks all of you for coming, for attending the webinar. We will upload it in our YouTube channel if you want to review it, the webinar, and also we will make available the presentation that we have used today, so you can download it from our blog. So stay tuned, and soon we will announce our trainings for these competitions. And also remember, we're preparing for other competitions, so don't hesitate to contact us to know more. So, thank you, everyone. See you then. Bye.